Ever since the NBA opted out of letting high school athletes go straight into the league, you are expected to go to college for a year, maybe 2, and then declare for the draft. Your performance in conference games or the NCAA tournament increased or decreased your draft stock and made you decide if you wanted to remain another year at school to increase your chances of becoming a top pick or go straight into the league because you're going to be a top pick. However, in more recent years, we have seen a shift away from playing in the NCAA, but instead opting to play international basketball or to participate in the new G League developmental program. What are the pros and cons of these 3 different options? And what is our opinion of which is the best decision a high school prospect can make? Welcome back to When the Lights Go Out. I'm Mishal.
I'm Sam.
And I'm Eli.
How you guys doing today?
I'm doing okay.
Yeah, I can't complain. How you doing, Mishal?
It's the first basketball podcast, so I'm really happy. Since it's our first basketball podcast, who are your 2 favorite basketball players?
Would you like to go first, Eli?
Are we going like, is this currently playing?
How about one of each?
One of each? All right. Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I gotta go like, I like Kareem.
You like Kareem?
I like Kareem.
You like his Jewish jump hook?
I like anything Jewish. And I'll also say, I don't know, I like Luka. I've been watching a lot of the Mavs. I like Luka.
Not a bad answer. Stay on the white people train. My favorite retired player is definitely Steve Nash. Really loved watching him play in Phoenix. Loved using him in video games. Just love the guy.
I can't get over that.
My favorite current player,
Larry Bird.
No, actually,
Harden.
we're gonna go
staying
away
on white
from
people.
That. We're gonna go away from that train.
Okay.
We're derailing the train.
Oh no.
We're going to go with Bradley Beal because I love the Washington Wizards. I love the DC sports teams, unlike Mishal, who pretends he does.
Boo.
And I've been watching Beal play last couple of years. He's the man. He's silky smooth.
Dude, he is good. I wish there was a team around him.
Just wait
Maybe
for John
someday.
Wall to come back.
Maybe someday.
I've been waiting for John Wall to come back.
He'll
since,
be back
2012.
this coming season.
Maybe someday.
It's been 2 years, right?
Don't be surprised when he'll be a top 5.
Yeah,
point guard in the league again.
I'm not. I might be surprised, but I'll be happy.
It's tough to come back from Achilles injury.
It is tough. I just asked D'Angelo Hall. Well, what, Mishal? Tell me. Mishal, tell me, what is your favorite current basketball player that's not named LeBron James?
Well, he actually used to play with LeBron. He was also from the same draft class as LeBron, but he was a 2nd round draft pick.
Is it? Oh, 2nd round. Okay.
This guy's draft rights were traded for money where the team bought a copy machine instead of drafting him.
Ah, Korver, of course.
It's Kyle Korver.
All right. So thanks, everybody, for listening in. Before we really get into the podcast, though, I'd like to remind everybody that you can find us, all of our podcasts, and some really cool blog posts we do on whenthelightsgooutpodcast.com. Like I said, you can find all of our podcasts there, and you can find a bunch of really cool blog posts, and those blog posts are edited by our fantastic editor, Kate Rempe. You can also follow us on Instagram at whenthelightsgooutpod and on our Twitter at lightsgooutpod. And remember, on Instagram, you can get clips of our podcasts as well. On Mondays, you can go onto our website and read Enter Your Week with Eli. It's our, again, weekly Monday blog post that I write. On Wednesdays, we have a blog post called What's the Midweek Matter, where anybody from the When the Lights Go Out team can talk about something they found interesting that week. And on Fridays, we have our podcast that comes out every 2 weeks when the lights go out. Hopefully you're listening to this now. Make sure you also read the podcast summary for this podcast and all the other podcasts. Our very own Monty writes that. And it's usually a shorter look at the podcast with some interesting details that we might have missed, any corrections, and also all the sources we use. So that's really interesting. And then on off weeks, on Fridays, you can read our State of Sports, where we go over the previous 2 weeks' issues and interesting stories in sports. Make sure to give us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts.
Mishal gave us a small introduction to the history, but let's go more in depth. Going to college has always been the traditional path of the potential professional athlete. In the past, a basketball player was required to play at least 2 years of college until a 1971 court case allowed players to skip college by proving financial hardship. While there was much concern about the NCAA losing most of its top quality basketball players, very few players skipped college until the mid-1990s. Led by Kevin Garnett in 1995, many top athletes began to skip college altogether and go straight to the NBA, including Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, Dwight Howard, and more. You might wonder what changed from then to now, considering high school players no longer come straight out. This can be explained by the 2005 collective bargaining agreement, in which David Stern vehemently opposed the straight to the NBA pipeline and requested that a draft-eligible player must be 20 years old. This was heavily disagreed with by players, but after negotiations, they reached an agreement. As the current rules stand, a player must be at least 19 years old and 1 year removed from their high school graduation, excluding international players, of course. This new rule gave way to the modern one-and-done era in which most top prospects pick a college with elite coaching, play one season, and immediately declare for the draft. In more recent years, this one-and-done rule has evolved to where players can choose to go overseas, go to college, or join the G League developmental program.
Let's first look at the overseas route. Many of these high school athletes go overseas and sign with teams in the National Basketball League, the EuroLeague, or other foreign leagues. These kids will be playing and training against professional athletes, which would let them hone their basketball skills. The pros for going overseas are that you actually make money and play against some of the best competition outside of the NBA and the EuroLeague. A major con here is the lack of knowing the culture and the language, along with being far from home. Let's look at Emmanuel Mudiay. Due to eligibility issues, Mudiay signed with the Guangdong Southern Tigers in the Chinese Basketball Association. He signed a 1-year, $1.2 million contract, but ended up only playing 10 games due to injuries. Mudiay was getting paid for playing against professionals, but he lived in a place with limited Western culture. There was only one place that served American food where he lived, and he only watched old basketball documentaries and films due to the lack of cultural assimilation. Playing overseas also tends to have worse facilities and coaches. In the CBA, workout technology is lacking and strategies are from the old school form of basketball, not the current stretch big strategies or the no center scheme that the Rockets use. In the end, he ended up being the 7th overall pick in the 2015 NBA draft by the Denver Nuggets, but he never lived up to his potential, and the Nuggets gave up on him after 2.5 years. He got traded to the Knicks, and during his second season there, he averaged his best professional season of 15, 4, and 3. This leads to the 2019-2020 season where he signed with the Utah Jazz. Although his NBA career didn't turn out the way he expected, he was still able to be a lottery pick from playing overseas. Mudiay paved the way for overseas basketball, which these two players in the National Basketball League chose to follow. After a year in the NBL, they both are still projected to be lottery picks in the 2020 NBA draft. That's right, LaMelo Ball and RJ Hampton. The Next Stars program in the NBL has multiple benefits for the players. They can end up netting around $500K after incentives.
Was the netting on purpose, that joke?
It was.
Yeah.
They allow the players to develop their skill set as a professional in an environment without classes or tests, or the responsibilities of being a student athlete. With the NBL, there will be less cultural assimilation required because Australia and New Zealand are more culturally similar to the States compared to the CBA or EuroLeague cities and countries. In the end, the main reason for going overseas is that you face some of the best competition while being compensated. What are your takes on this, Eli?
That's actually really interesting. It makes a lot of sense in some ways for children, I guess, young adults to not go to college if it's not going to help them. Like if it's going to take more brain power, when they really just want to focus on basketball. Effectively like a vocational school. I think there is a lot of good that comes to college, like the diversity classes, a lot of the gen eds, and kind of giving yourself some time before you have to become an adult. But yeah, it's especially basketball players, like 1 year, maybe 2. But like, what's the point? But at the same time, it kind of sucks that if you go overseas, like there's nothing there that you can really relate to. That's something that I didn't think about that I think you did a really good job of explaining. Because like I think going into this, I was like, why not just go like to Australia for like a year or two? Like that'd be great. They've got cool beaches and stuff, you know. But like, if the culture is that different, even though they speak English, like that might be jarring for a lot of kids, for a lot of 18-year-olds.
And you have to keep in mind that they're only going to be there for a year or two, and they still got to get adjusted to their culture, which takes time away from their time where they can spend learning basketball.
The point is to play basketball, and it's like, I guess between going to college and going internationally, the reason you would go internationally is because you wouldn't want to spend time doing the college thing, but you're going to spend probably a similar amount of time getting used to the culture, getting used to living in a different country, and, you know, those customs. How they play basketball in that league might be slightly different, whether it's by rules or just kind of the overall vibe of things.
All right. Well, let's not forget that these players are earning a lot of money for that 1 to 2 years that they're going overseas. $500,000 to $1 million. You said that's a lot of money, especially for some of these guys who are coming out of broken homes or really impoverished areas. That can be game changing for them and their family. And
it's true.
In the NCAA, they're not earning shit. They're not earning it.
And there's the added,
not allowed to.
If there's the added pressure of putting on a show while like winning for your fans, your team or whatever, and also getting to the draft and getting high enough to get money. But like you also want to keep yourself away from injury, and injuries happen all the time. So the more time you spend in college when you know there are people of your skill level or of a similar level playing in the G League or, in somewhere else abroad making money, like, say you only have 2 years, would you want to spend those 2 years
earning money or not?
Yeah. I mean, I would love to earn money. Money is great.
It sure is.
I agree with all of your points. And that leads us to our first trivia question. So this is a kind of twist on what we usually do. We're going to do a match the stat line. So I'm going to give you guys 3 different stat lines, and you have to match it with Moutier, Ball, or RJ Hampton.
In their professional league?
In their professional leagues.
Okay.
In their overseas playing careers.
Okay.
18, 6, and 6. You're just getting points, rebounds, and assists.
I think Ball averaged 17 points, so I don't think that was him.
18, 6, and 6. 17, 7, 7.5.
That's Ball.
9, 2.5, and 4.
17 is Ball. You can tell by the assists. 9 points.
It's 2.5 assists?
I feel like that's Moutier. So Ball's 17, Moutier is 9, and Hampton is 18.
I'm going to switch. I'm going to say Moutier is 9, and then I'm going to switch the other 2. So Ball is 18.
So something. Go ahead.
The right answer is Moutier is 18, 6, and 6.
Dang.
Ball 17, 7, and 7.5. RJ 9, 2.5, and 4.
You definitely get that one.
But here's a bonus question.
Oh.
Can you guys tell me what team LaMelo and RJ played for?
I know LaMelo's jersey was red.
Isn't it like Melbourne or something?
No.
No idea.
Are we just naming like a city in Australia?
No, I was just guessing what
Perth.
The team was. Perth.
Sydney.
It's a trick question because RJ didn't play for an Australian team.
Come on.
Boo.
He played for the New Zealand Breakers, and LaMelo played for the Illawarra Hawks.
Thank you.
I'm
never heard of
language.
Never heard of him either. I'm surprised you guys actually didn't get the LaMelo one because he actually bought the team.
He didn't buy the team.
He bought the team.
He bought the team like while he was playing for them?
He bought while playing for the team. Big baller brand bucks.
With what money?
Big baller move.
Big baller brand.
That's pretty alpha.
How old is he? Like, is he 19 or is he 18?
18.
He's 18? I owned 2 skateboards at the age of 18.
The NCAA, the traditional route, the expected. Players have been going to a 4-year university before entering the NBA for basically as long as the NBA has existed. For most of the history of the NBA, however, players stayed for at least 2 years, and most of the time they played all 4 years, meaning most of the top athletes entered the NBA in their early 20s. In the modern NBA, most top prospects who go to a 4-year university only end up staying for 1 year, as that's all that's required to become draft eligible. These prospects generally go to only the top basketball programs in the country and compete for an NCAA March Madness championship. Utilizing the NCAA route can be very helpful for the development of an eventual NBA star. Many top players in the league went one and done at these top programs such as Duke, Kentucky, or North Carolina. These schools provide the best coaching available to these prospects who get to hone their skills against highly competitive schools in Power 5 conferences. Players such as Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, John Wall, Devin Booker, and Karl Anthony Towns all went to top college programs for one season, honed their craft, and wound up being lottery picks and then superstars. While this all sounds great, there has been more and more talk among players and media members about ditching the NCAA in favor of greener pastures. If it can do all this for you, why wouldn't you go this route? The biggest factor against the NCAA is monetary. Many of these players come from extremely low-income areas and have lived impoverished their whole lives. If given the opportunity to earn money right away rather than spend a year on a useless basketball scholarship, many players will follow the money. In addition to this, while you may receive top coaching, there's no guarantee you'll be a top player in any given school system. Devin Booker, superstar shooting guard for the Phoenix Suns, spent 1 year at the University of Kentucky underneath coach John Calipari, where he averaged only 20 minutes per game and did not earn one start, mostly playing as the team's sixth man. If given more opportunities, odds are he would have increased his draft position up from 13th in the 2015 NBA draft. Other players have been forced to play out of position or defer to more tenured players, which can greatly hamper one's development. 1 or 2 bad games in the nationally broadcasted NCAA tournament could hurt your draft stock significantly, in spite of an otherwise great season. And finally, these players are forced to take utterly pointless classes at a university they almost certainly will not be finishing, and have to maintain an eligibility GPA to keep playing. Going to college has been the default route for star high school basketball athletes for over 50 years. However, with all of these underlying issues, will it stay that way forever?
Will it stay that way forever?
I don't think so.
Probably not.
I really don't think so.
No, I mean,
I think the NCAA is going to have to start to incentivize players to come to school. Because, like, a scholarship, it's kind of like a formality. Like, it's like, oh, I'm on scholarship. That's great. But for a top athlete, that scholarship is not really helping them in any way. Like, obviously, they don't have to pay for the school, but they're still going to have to pay for, like, food and, like, certain utilities.
Yeah, I mean,
and their apartment.
It's effectively taking money away from them if they could even play for the G, like in the G League team. Like, if you're actively making money, you can invest that. You know, you can do something with that. But if you're just like, I feel like especially the one and dones.
Yeah, that's mostly what we're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, you're just wasting a year. I mean,
it's not a waste per se, but it's like
you're lying in wait.
Yeah, exactly.
For the thing you actually want to do.
Right.
It's just another hurdle instead of an actual
like a step.
Yeah, if it's needed. Like, I mean, I think the NCAA does really good with that for like football, where you have to stay multiple years.
And football, you need to develop more, I think.
Yeah. I mean, it's, and they don't have their own minor league system.
Exactly.
So you can't, you have to develop somehow.
Right.
But, in the NBA, like, you can go and spend time, especially if you're a better player, even on the bench of a good team and being around, like, could you imagine just like being around LeBron James or like Kevin Durant, like just absorbing that instead of the guy who's the same age as you that's going to leave as well?
Mm-hmm. Or 1 year older than you who you have to sit behind because of some sort of like respect mantra that a coach has.
Right. And if you're going to sit behind somebody, why not sit behind one of the greatest players playing the game right now?
Right.
For sure. And you also mentioned one of the main hurdles is monetary. In recent years, or recently in like the last few months, there has been a big push, especially in California, to allow these athletes to get paid. So with that being implemented and hopefully being implemented in the future, do you still see that these players would opt to go the college route or one of these other two?
I think it depends on the money and the coaching. If they're getting better coaching in college, which odds are they probably are, considering the level of coaching talent that is in college basketball. But if they're getting paid significantly less, then they still might opt for the route.
I see a couple things. I see it being good for the non-lottery picks, second round pick guys.
Definitely.
That could benefit from spending a year, but again, have that thing where they might come from an impoverished family, or like they want to make money, because why would you not want to make money? And it makes sense for them to make money in that situation. But the problem that I see occurring is having schools pay money. The NCAA would have to put some sort of salary cap in the way,
it's a big step to actually pay college athletes.
Right. But like, if you have a school like Duke that has so much money, or Kentucky that, makes money off of basketball, you would be more likely you could spend more money on players. And so effectively, you make the kind of,
you could like monopolize top talent is what you're saying.
Yeah. And then, even the lower ends of talent could make more money, as like a 6-man, 7th man on a Duke than they could as the first guy on a team that might be 60,
like a Wake Forest or like
the bottom, even those 4 teams that get into the tournament after playing like a mini tournament themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Last 4 in.
Yeah, the last 4 in. Thank you. So those teams might not be able to get those players because it's a different, because it can't spend enough money.
Because it's a numbers game at that point.
Yeah. So like, why? If you were a top player or even a middle of the pack guy, why wouldn't you go to a place where you could make more money?
Well, the thing is with the top talent, at least, is that those schools, your Kentuckys and your Dukes, they kind of already monopolize most of the 5-star recruits. So rarely you'll see guys, top level recruits, actually stay at home. The only one I can really think of who's a 5-star was Romeo Langford, who stayed in Indiana, went to University of Indiana for a season, and then went to the NBA. He's on the Celtics now. Most of the other top 5-star recruits, though, are going to go to your top basketball programs. So I guess it's more important for those more mid-tier prospects who you were saying would still end up going to Duke or Kentucky if there was more money in those programs. But otherwise, it's not that different, is all I'm saying.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so, and a good point we should probably make is the law that we're kind of referencing, or started this part of the conversation, is not about paying players, but it allows players to make money off of their likeness if it doesn't have anything to do with the sport they're playing and what they're doing with their college. So it's still kind of a long way off, but it's theoretically, if colleges want to start paying their players, or if the NCAA wants to allow that, these are all thoughts for that, and that paying of players in college might come out of as a reaction to some of the other things we're talking about, the other leagues that are gaining popularity, that are alternative to the NCAA, and students or kids coming out right out of high school.
All right, so let's do our next trivia question.
Ooh, boy.
This one is pretty tough. All right, so the question is, since Devin Booker was the 6th man at Kentucky in that 2014 season, who were the 5 starters ahead of him?
In 2014?
Yep.
Here's the thing.
I'll give you a little bit of help. One of them ended up being a 1st overall pick.
Okay.
2 of them are twin brothers.
Okay.
One of them ended up playing for the same team as Booker.
And the last one got some really cool shoes. He wore some Naruto kicks at one point in his career.
Okay, so here's the thing. Is I'm pretty sure, I'm going to tell you who I know it's not, because those are my first. So this is the 2014 season.
Yep.
I'm pretty sure it's not AD, because he was drafted before then, right?
That. Kansas also had a different pair of twins, which is the Morris brothers.
Okay, so that was my.
These Kentucky brothers were in the NBA for a little while. It didn't really
Okay.
pan out. Another thing with them is that they actually snubbed the University of Maryland. We were in their top 2. They picked
Interesting.
Kentucky over us.
So I should know this, but
It's a little old, so
yeah,
it might be tough.
I don't think I have this. I don't think I have the Twins. All right,
Those some of the
2014. One was a first overall pick, you said, right?
Yep. In that same draft with
In 2015. Yeah, so that would be Karl Anthony Towns.
Correct.
yes, sir.
Yeah. Oh man.
Then you
Okay,
have
so
the Twins.
I got one. I don't know the Twins.
You have a little short man who played for the Suns. Played point guard, 5'9". That one's gonna be pretty tough.
Steve Nash?
Yeah, Steve Nash was on
The only people I
Kentucky in
know
2014.
on the Suns are Steve Nash, Charles Barkley, not currently on the Suns, obviously.
So that guy's it's Tyler Eulis. He really didn't have much of an NBA career.
Yeah, I don't
but he
recognize
started
that.
over him.
I thought it was Trey Lyles.
I don't think Trey Lyles started on that team. I think he came off the bench as well. So then, Mishal, do you know the Twins?
I know that the Naruto guy
Yeah.
played for the Golden State Warriors this past season. He's been with
He
the
was
Kings.
on the Kings for a while.
He's
Oh.
most notably known for his time with the Kings.
He's a center, and he has a double last name. Mishal, who is our
Willie
mystery man?
Cauley
Stein.
Okay. I believe you.
So all we're missing is our twins. That is the Harrison twins
Andrew
and Aaron.
and Aaron.
The Harrison
Interesting.
twins. The only one of those guys who is a better basketball player than Devin Booker, arguably, is Karl Anthony Towns. So,
Cat.
however, Booker was 19 when he went to the NBA,
That's
so
fair.
he had a lot of time to
Yeah, how old
get
is he now?
better. 23.
23. Yeah, and
been in the league a long
now
time.
he's a bona fide.
He's a star.
He's recognized
He's
as a star.
He
I
played
remember
amazing in the bubble.
and that dude 8-0.
Damn straight.
Okay, so let's talk about the G League now. In recent years, the G League has sprung up to life as the official minor league basketball organization. It used to be called the D League, or the Developmental League, until 2017. Recently, the G League created a pathway to the NBA program to entice NBA prospects to join them instead of going to college. This program would pay the player and allows them to get to know an NBA franchise and speak/work with players and coaches. A lot of the G League players have had numerous NBA experiences and have been called up or sent down numerous times. Therefore, these veterans can help better prepare the future rookie for the challenges of being in the NBA. From the looks of it, it seems that the Pathway program is similar to a soccer academy, where the main focus is solely on developing the player to be NBA ready. So rather than playing regular season games for the G League affiliate team, they would join some veterans for exhibition games against other G League teams, foreign national teams, and other NBA academies. The other pro that I mentioned earlier was pay. Jalen Green, who is regarded as the #1 prospect in the 2020 ESPN Top 100, is scheduled to make $500,000 with additional incentives. These incentives can be earned by completing community events or attending life school programs. Although this program sounds great, the one downside is the locations of these G League teams. They are in low market areas. Sure, the media will be covering Green and other top prospects closely, but when fans are allowed back in the arenas, there won't be a huge showing compared to college basketball games. Although this is a new program, it isn't going to last very long. The idea of the Pathways program is to be a temporary program until the NBA terminates the one and done rule, but in the meantime, it offers a third option for high school students to look at.
Even as I guess I'm a big fan of the kind of minor leagues. But the thing you said specifically about there not being a lot of fans, I think the kind of player, the kind of young adult kid that would be interested in this might really want to develop their skills while making money. It might not matter who's in the stands. I get that, especially in college, it's very similar. There's a lot of fans. There's a lot of
the clout can be unbelievable.
right. And that's good and all. And that can prepare you for the NBA in that way. But if you think you really want to focus on your game and you don't want to focus on the fans and like that kind of interaction, it might be a more direct basketball, I guess a thing that can help your basketball specifically, not the whole package. Because at that point, if you're really focusing on the basketball part, it might really help.
That's why I reference soccer, because that's what these academies do. They allow their player to develop until they will be able to play for the parent club.
Yeah, it's very similar in minor league baseball, although that's a very
Much longer process.
a longer process.
Can
There's more. There's just so much more to it. It's more. It's like a
lot
big
of
web.
steps.
Yeah, but I mean,
They're working their way up.
effectively, it's the same thing. It kind of it's a stepwise program to teach you
Yeah.
certain aspects of the game and help you develop.
And you're already talking with people who have had experience within the league, which is always a plus.
Right, you're making money and you have a direct line of sight to where you want to go.
I think a lot of guys who ended up being superstars probably would have chosen this path because of how focused they are on their basketball. Guys like Kobe Bryant, James Harden, and Kawhi Leonard. I think that for a lot of superstars, this path, if it was available to them when they came out, they would have heavily considered it.
Plus, you don't have to assimilate. You already are in a Western culture. You're already within the States.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
For
I
the,
agree.
9
I think
to
it's
5
it's a good path. It's interesting that you said that it's just kind of a stopgap because the one and done rule, once that is over and high school players can go directly to the NBA, they already kind of get that. They'll already get that. But I mean, even when that happens, even if they just decide to go to the G League, it makes a lot of sense.
A bunch of players who get drafted, usually the lower tier players, they still end up being in the G League at some point in their career, so they can get accustomed to playing the league, and then they get brought back up.
You know, one thing that I think is also good about the kind of G League things that maybe the minor leagues don't do as well, or do as well, depending on how you see it, is in college, there's so many teams, and you might end up not playing against top tier talent all across the team, even the 6-man and all the guys coming off the bench. But in the G League, there's, less teams. So the players that are going to be on those teams are going to be better just from, the amount of space there is for good teams. And if more people go to those teams, the people you're playing against are better. So you're more likely to get better because you're playing against better players.
And you're being coached in a way that will prepare you for the NBA, not necessarily to help you try and win college games.
Right.
On that note, here's another trivia question. Which of the following players did not play in the G or D League? Danny Green, Kevin Porter Jr., Jeremy Lin, Chris Birdman Anderson, or Marcin Gortat?
Did not play?
Did not play.
Okay, I have an answer. Do you have an answer, Sam?
I'm thinking you can go ahead.
Yeah, all right. I'm just gonna go. And so say the names again. Would you mind?
Danny Green, Kevin Porter Jr.,
Okay,
Jeremy Lin, Chris Birdman Anderson, and Marcin Gortat.
and this is who did not play in one of the.
Correct.
I kind of think it's Jeremy Lin.
That was one of mine, but I think my choice is going to be Gortat, and the reason why is I think he might have played overseas and came right over.
I feel like it's Jeremy Lin because I know he went undrafted, and I know that he was playing great for the Knicks as a rookie. Like, he was just a end of the bench guy for their full season, and then, or for however long it was before Linsanity started. That is my guess. I don't actually know the beginning of Lin's story very well.
I don't think anyone does. It kind of picks up at Linsanity.
Well, both of you guys are actually wrong.
Oh no.
Jeremy Lin came from the G League, and then he got picked up by the Rockets, Knicks, Warriors, a bunch of other teams in the process. Gortat also came from Poland and then played 3 years in Germany before being drafted by the Suns, and then went back to Germany, and then went back and signed with the Magic and got sent down to the D League. Played for 13 days and then got called up and played back up to Dwight.
So he only played 13 days in the D League?
Correct.
Okay. That makes sense. Because I knew that he was Polish, or he is Polish. So I was thinking maybe he's stayed in Europe.
I like the idea. I like the thought.
And then Danny Green got drafted by the Cavs.
I knew he was.
He went down to the G League or the D League, got signed by the Spurs. Rest is history. And Chris Birdman Anderson also went to the D League. So the correct answer is Kevin Porter Jr.
The rookie.
The
rookie.
Cavaliers.
I tried picking a rookie who you'd assume would be down in the G League because he was a lower round draft,
right?
Or lower in the first round.
Really terrible Cavaliers, so I guess it makes sense.
Yeah, that does make. I mean, that's a good point.
So now that you've heard of these 3 different options, what would you guys choose to do?
So if I am a budding high school superstar, I'm a top prospect, I think I would go to the G League. The coaching there is just flat out the best you're going to get. You're going to get paid. You're going to face the best talent possible. I don't really see a lot of downsides with it. I mean, you're not going to be playing for big crowds, and you're not going to be maybe as well known among non-basketball fans, but I don't think that's really that important compared to actually preparing yourself to become the best player you can be and getting picked the highest, earning the most money. It's a no-brainer for me.
Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't want to pick the same thing as you, but it just seems like the right choice. For me specifically, if I were good at basketball, I would pick the G League for all of the reasons you said. Makes a lot of sense. I think there are some situations in which going internationally might be good for somebody. There are situations that going to college might be good for somebody. I think people that need more structure going to college would help, and people specifically if you're not a top pick. And I think too, international leagues aren't bad. They as we did talk about, it's a big adjustment. But if you're someone that maybe has lived abroad or have family in that country or something like that, to the point where you'd feel comfortable being there for a year, even if it wasn't like your favorite place in the world to go, it might still be beneficial because it kind of gives you that, even though there are crowds and stuff in other places, it there might be, depending on who you are, there might be kind of a barrier in your mind to be like, these people aren't going to watch me play in the States all the time. This is just kind of like my practice run.
A thing with international that I think might be a little bit of an upside is you could potentially win over fans from that country or city or wherever you are, and you could build up kind of like a nice international following.
A following, yeah. Which would help you.
I mean, you're not going to get as much of a following as like Yao Ming from China,
right?
Or like a player who's actually from that country, like Jokic in Serbia. But yeah, like you could actually end up building yourself a nice little following and have a lot of fans from all around the world.
Yeah,
kind of interesting thought.
That could help you make money.
Yeah, branding.
For branding purposes, and might also just like give you some kind of name recognition.
Yeah, exactly.
In the league.
I have a little plus for the NCAA, which is if I'm the type of guy where I want to be under the bright lights, I want to compete for a championship, I'm going to go to the NCAA. However, that's not me really. I'm okay. I'm a little bit more low key. I'd rather get myself better than go for a 1-year shot at an NCAA championship in a huge tournament where there's a million outcomes. But there are guys who are like that, and that's okay if that's what they want to do. Definitely.
Yeah, there are definitely players, and I think we see a lot of them because of the way sports are, that do better under the lights, with the pressure on. And that might be a plus for an NBA team because you see a guy competing at a higher level at each stage in like a tournament compared to the season. Like whether or not you think he's the most talented guy or you think he's the most prepared guy, you might see that you're like, we can coach this guy to be good. We're already coaching a bunch of guys, but we can coach this guy to be good, and he has that something extra.
Yeah, he has that moxie or that.
Yeah. I think that the thing with anywhere you go is it doesn't really matter as long as it's right for you. Like, and I think the thing I was going to say too about the international league is that if you do poorly or you just like don't make an impact on the fans, that's not going to affect you negatively.
Yeah, not really. No.
Because if you're already kind of trying to build up to something, you're starting at that point where you don't have that name recognition. So there's not really anything to lose, and there's only things to gain depending on the type of person you are for each of these.
So I like to think of this as a two-folded question, because let's say you're a bona fide superstar, and Sam was saying you'd go straight into the G League, which I agree, because you're in the direct spotlight of these NBA teams, because these NBA teams work very closely with their G League. But let's say you're a run-of-the-mill, middle-of-the-pack kind of guy. For those guys, I definitely go NCAA, because that's how you build your draft stock. Let's look at Trae Young, for example. I had no idea who Trae Young was. But then he started shooting lights out, playing amazing at Oklahoma, and he ended up being the number 4 overall pick and budding superstar. So it just depends on if you're a bona fide superstar, then you go G League for me. But if you need more time to develop, you can go NCAA because you're still around people your own age who are in the process of developing their own skills, and they could help you in other ways that
like what you're saying, like if you don't have a name for yourself already just from high school, the NCAA is the way that you'll make that name for yourself.
I agree. And I think there's also something to be said too about going abroad in that case. If you're a person that is looking to adventure out into something new, college might not be the thing for you because it, again, is one of those. It's going to be one of those more structured things. Being an athlete, a student athlete, you still have a lot of
responsibility.
It's a lot of responsibility.
Don't have to do with basketball.
Yeah, I mean, there might be a decent amount of pressure and stuff, and you might like that. But if you really just want to like go and kind of explore a new place while you're figuring out yourself and you're working on your game, international might be good for you too. The NBA is looking to allow high school athletes to go straight into the league once again. Adam Silver believes that the one and done rule is no longer viable and that 2022 will probably be the first draft since 2005 to allow the best high school players to jump straight into the league. Realistically, only the best of the best will go straight into the league, while those who need some development would probably choose to go to college or overseas, assuming that the Pathways program is disbanded. With that being said, if you were a top prospect, what would you do? Would you go straight into the league? Or would you play a year or two of the aforementioned options to potentially increase your draft stock or maybe gain more experience and contribute right away? Let us know what you think by tweeting at us at Lights Go Out Pod, messaging us on Instagram at When the Lights Go Out Pod, or commenting on our website, whenthelightsgooutpodcast.com.
This has been Mishal,
Sam,
and Eli
from When the Lights Go Out, and we will see you next time.
Thank you.
Oh, snap.
Tell me why Alex Caruso is the best player on the Lakers team.
Oh my God. dude.
On the
Alex
Lakers
Caruso
team?
is such a meme player.
Tell me
All he
why.
can do is steal the ball. That's the only plus
That's a
factor
good
he has.
thing.
He steals the ball.
He was having some nice pick and rolls
Oh,
yesterday
please.
where the defense just collapsed.
Look, he's a
and
better basketball player than me, and I'm okay with that.